As a form of calendrical subterfuge, Kubrick concludes the Danny Halloran interview with a date marker. The month corresponds to a Julian calendar moon period, and time in The Shining is subsequently indicated by this phrase, followed by days and later by hours. Closing day is Halloween. Ullman mentions their season runs until October 30th, cleverly masking Halloween's hidden identity as a day. Is All Hallows' Eve a day or a night? Then, a month later could signify November 30th or perhaps December 1st. Kubrick toys with our ability to track both the subtle set distortions and the ambiguous time frames he employs. What does a month later truly mean? Halloween serves as the only anchor date in the film's present timeline, though the story ultimately concludes on a date predating this in actual time, July 4th, 1921. The establishing shot keeps the VW Beetle centered in the frame. Smoke pours from a chimney indicating a fireplace, a visual parallel to the first cigarette campfire in the Boulder apartment, but on vastly different scales, though appearing optically similar in size. Absurdly, a coyote howls off-screen, referencing another initial scene. It echoes the unheard off-screen noise from the Roadrunner show, ingeniously compacting these two moments. As Danny begins exploring the hotel on his tricycle, the loud noise of his wheels is abruptly silenced when he rides over Navajo rugs, just as the Beetle was silenced earlier. Danny asserts his presence by making noise. These sounds are his clouds, akin to the folds of clouds that ended the closing day driving sequence, hinting that spirits are watching him. The Navajo rugs, storytelling systems without alphabets, are part of a language invented and woven by women. Danny, who has not previously toured the Colorado Lounge in the film, explores the hotel from his lower vantage point, experiencing it through a child's parallax. He is restless and curious. The first floor he traverses and loops back to is red, extending the imagery of the blood he sees spilling onto the floor. Kubrick inverts the Beetle's journey by painting a double line of reflected light onto the red surface and framing Danny to the right. In contrast, Danny speeds past the camera, whereas Jack's Beetle was overtaken. The island arrow blanket forms echo the movement of the island seen at the film's beginning, symbolizing the camera eye as the traveling entity. Unlike the car's journey, Danny's tricycle loop is a continuum, observed between Wendy's overt and unseen elevator trip. Wendy is also associated with vehicles. She wheels breakfast from the kitchen, which appears to be located behind the gold ballroom. She exits from the left of the T-shaped entrance corridor. Later and earlier in the film, we notice a wall of black and white photos that seem to contradict this reverse view. Jack later looks back at these photos. The film's final location, the photo on the wall, is bordered by mirrors, which later appear as Navajo rugs. These elements act as memory animations and continuity disturbances. The Navajo rugs function as mirrors. On the third floor, Wendy approaches from the elevator, which is unseen in the shot. The elevator scene has been coyly edited out, suggesting it functions as a portal. A new view of the apartment exterior reveals a coffee machine, a machine that pours fluid paralleling the elevator and mirrors her pouring coffee moments later. The coffee machine visually resembles the food dispensing machine aboard the Discovery in 2001: A Space Odyssey, thematically linking meals in both films. Wendy carries a tray into the apartment where Jack sleeps, inside a mirror. She is dressed in the same yellow-blue plaid colors as the twins. As she pours his coffee, it becomes a visual taunt, pouring within a mirror, echoing other pouring imagery in the film, red, brown, and yellow fluids. The spirit that followed the characters to the hotel, which appeared behind Ullman and formed in his hands as the eagle, now appears on Jack's shirt. Before Jack describes déjà vu, he stares into the mirror, directly at the camera and audience, not at himself, sticking his tongue out malevolently. The house suggests that there are now two Jacks. Jack first stares directly at us during the interview and now does so through the mirror. In reverse, we re-establish that we are outside the mirror, as evidenced by the readable text, Stovington. He dips bacon into yolk as if it were French fries and ketchup, continuing the yellow color motif from the previous scene. I mean, we've all had cases of déjà vu, but this is ridiculous. Déjà vu is a neurophenomenological event where what has just happened feels as though it has happened before. Jack, who will later lose the ability to sleep, oversleeps. It's around 11:30. Wendy receives sarcasm in response to her optimistic encouragement. Yup, that's all it is. Kubrick's dialogue often carries dual meanings. Jack's earlier sarcasm, he saw it on the television, recalls Danny's first scene and signals the onset of Jack's malevolence. Sarcasm creates a tonal shift, reversing the meaning of words into their opposites. It acts as a form of verbal mirroring. It looks the same but isn't. The scene dissolves to a typewriter. A cigarette burns but is not smoked. Later in the film, Jack retains his sarcastic tone, but his words take on chilling sincerity. I'm just going to bash your brains in. The eagle from Jack's shirt now appears as the typewriter's logo, a thunderbird. Below its symbol is the word Adler, German for eagle. This typewriter serves as a device that encodes thoughts through QWERTY English, storing information linearly in a manual black and white format. Instead of using the typewriter, Jack throws a tennis ball against a wall. Jack stands on the right side of a split screen. On the left, we see a Navajo summary, fire, wind art, and a spirit emblem, a continuity that extends both above and below. Jack tosses his ball through the buffalo head toward a sand painting that depicts instructions to humans regarding the use of sacred arrows. These arrow people represent the upper deities of the Navajo, a council of 4 high gods, 2 couples with the women inside and the men outside in white. Later, Wendy will adopt a modern interpretation of this sand painting outfit when she wears her yellow western jacket. We have seen Navajo encryption mirrored in various forms, arrows, portals, and mirrors, and now it is shown explicitly. Kubrick illustrates with great economy how ideas and words are encoded in Navajo culture through patterns, forms, and narrative depictions. Note the subtle parallel between the T-forms of the fireplace and the elevator bank. The right side of the screen functions as a diagram of European expansion and colonization. The buffalo head, black and white images, piano, Tudor-ceiling details, and the framing that cuts off the upper and lower sections of the scene. Jack's actions, playing with the rubber ball, a native symbol of the sun, invoke the magic of solar movement, mimicking the Mayan ball game in a solitary, profane version of a Navajo narrative ritual. The wooden wind art mirrors Jack's body form in both perspectives. The dissolve is painstakingly perfect, aligning the interior floor and the exterior lawn. Wendy and Danny appear to emerge from the fireplace, a portal, as they approach the maze. Their movements mirror its earlier introduction, but in reverse. Wendy's chasing mimics Wile E. Coyote's mannerisms. A guide map obscures our view of the maze's entrance and presents it at an off angle, disoriented from its actual orientation and upright, a deliberate discordance of 2 right angles. Look carefully. There are 2 mazes. The model map, which is the false maze we see only here, and the shined maze, revealed in the overhead view with its languorous zoom and tiny specks of Danny and Wendy. This is an entirely different maze. It sure is bigger than I thought it was. The maze model is transformed by the X-shaped pattern below it and the arrow designs on the floor. These patterns animate into the real maze outside, adding right-angle distortions upon right angles. It is shined. The view of Jack approaching the maze shows both the native arrow pattern on the lobby floor and the strictly right-angled English maze outside. This visionary blending of forms, the spectral, shined maze, suggests a phenomenological fusion. A key theme of the film is this visual transformation of the maze, which implies that Danny may shine the maze by entering it. He may even control its form. It could represent a mirrored side of the maze, showing us, without direct explanation, how easily Jack will become trapped. The dissolve below, transitioning from the paired figures of Wendy and Danny to a solitary Jack, reinforces this possibility, drawing Jack inexorably toward his future. Having nearly exhausted the ball toss, Jack is transitioned to 1 floor below. He sends the ball toward the first hanging Navajo pattern, the distant blanket that reflects the opening Mirror Lake image. This is the same pattern he first passed in the opening lobby scene, marking the beginning of his ghosting. Jack's throw is precise. He hits it squarely after bouncing the ball off the ground. Notice the diamond shape beneath him with its reverse shadowing. Jack remains confined to a limited number of rooms throughout the film, never leaving the interior except to hunt Danny at the end. When Jack stares down at the maze model in the lobby, he sees only the simplified version, unable to perceive the shined complexity of the real maze outside. From far above, we are shown the only optical effect shot in the film. A true overhead view of the maze from the sky, something Jack cannot see or comprehend. The floor patterns seem to enter the maze, warping it with complex 45-degree angles that animate into a wild, massive form. This disorientation mirrors the guide map that shifts the maze entrance from directly in front of us to the right of the screen. We see an overlook view now, presented at a right angle, resembling the Star Child's perspective from 2001, further distorting our awareness of both the entrance and the source of our perception. By cutting from Jack's downward gaze, Kubrick inserts a conscious paradox, an unsettling shift designed to disorient the viewer. Kubrick intensifies this disorientation by showing a shadow cast across the entire maze. This shadow continues into the center shot of Wendy and Danny, framed with sky blue and clouds above them. These angles mirror the moonlit shadows in the lobby at the film's conclusion. Like the interior's meticulously designed corners, columns, and indentations which hide falsehoods behind them, this shadowing process glyphicizes the imagery, embedding memories and depth into the film. It literally adds layers, correlating word and meaning while continuously distorting them until their final appearance. This reshaping of meaning is a key reason the film feels so riveting, even without full comprehension. Crucially, Kubrick also distorts the shadow from Jack's perspective. It is unshined. While the film is filled with subtle optical shifts, such as the use of dimmers to maintain unnaturally even foot candle exposures across deep distances, this overlook special effect recalls 2001, where nearly every sequence employed miniatures, gravity distortions, or front animation stand projection. Here, it serves as a momentary equation with that earlier film, adding an additional layer of complexity and unease. The hedge maze is a continuation of the road leading up the mountain. It embodies an English form. Many details of the house are of English origin, borrowed from ancient narrative symbols and myths, and signifies the subordination of nature, a symbol of control. Jack's later transfixed gaze out the window at the snowdrift and his family reflects an animation of this view. His gaze shifts earthward, mirroring his descent into degradation and eventual powerlessness. He freezes to death in the maze and is later transformed into the final shot inside a photo. Jack is accessing his ability to freeze. Dressed in black and bathed in white light, he foreshadows his approaching final color palette. While Wendy and Danny experience the full cognizance of the maze, Jack is restricted to the model's overlook, a poor learning tool for someone attempting to conquer both the maze and Danny. The maze's center is composed of doubled archdome insets, resembling eyes within eyes, hinting at layers of perception Jack cannot grasp.